Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Drunken Tarrasque. We're a leaf on the wind, and we don't know the reference. Today, I have Rachel with me.
Hi, again.
Yeah, someone doesn't know the reference here, and talking about Starfinder today, ladies and gentlemen.
Starfinder! It's like Pathfinder in space, like we
Yes.
talked about before.
Yes, and this time, we like to talk about it again. We got a little more information, but ultimately, I'm a bit I wouldn't say worried, but I'm not looking
Skeptical?
that.
Is that a better word?
Skeptical is a nice way of putting it, because the more and more I look at it, the more and more I've begun to start saying I'm seeing a train wreck starting.
It's just one awkward sigh after another awkward sigh. It's like,
Yeah, well, here's the thing. They had a releasement of some time ago of how space combat, in a way, was going to work.
Space combat being not at all what people tend to think about when they think about the space opera genre. It's like typically.
Well, how the best way I think I put it was it just looked like spaceships jousting.
Yeah, that's ultimately what it seems like. And ladies and gentlemen, if you hear that in the background, that is my cat. Hi, Byron.
Yes, Rachel's co-pilot is is
The
why.
cat.
Yes.
See that I wouldn't mind having on a spaceship. Like, you get to have pets, and like there's the ship cat, and that cat is never gonna be happy. It's like, what the shit are you doing? Like, crashing into things. And
Yeah, but it was ultimately seeing how essentially I don't see it actually possibly being pulled off space combat. Something that is honestly intrinsic with space battles. And it comes down to, we were just discussing some time ago of, well, how I would handle a space combat. Just how I've played it, and we played Dark Heresy, and I've actually kind of rooted around and looked around in it, and it just comes down to, well, if you want to take down a ship, you got to have boarding capabilities. You got to have a lot of little things, and you can't really have this space opera that they want to have, with which just seems like strafing runs against another target.
one of the problems is that the way that they're handling it is they're handling it 2D on a board, which doesn't exactly. To me, I think it boxes people in a little too much when they're trying to think about how to defeat an enemy. Like, the main thing about space battles and all the combat and stuff, the dogfights that are happening in space, is that you have angles to fight in that you normally would not be able to, because it's taking place in space. Like, so you should think about it more about, like, let's say
Air
you're
combat.
yeah. Well, also if you're in the ocean, because if you're diving down below into a deep area and your enemy is above, you should be able to attack from below, and you should be able to attack from above. But the way that they tend to put it is there's this flat board, and you've got your little miniatures, and they're there on the board. And I think it's mostly geared towards them just trying to sell the miniatures, which I can understand. But at the same time, it's like...
It is a business, and it's ultimately... Here's the thing. Anyone like me who's played Battlefleet Gothic will understand that for space combat, for that space opera, you're going to need to have a lot of thought and planning into it. I mean, I played it, I sucked at it, but I enjoyed it. That you got to take into account your trajectory, your velocity, celestial bodies, how to use it to whip around, just plowing into people, just using your ships as battering rams, the torpedoes, lasers, and ultimately, I don't see that being done in Pathfinder the way how they described it. And again,
You mean Starfinder?
Starfinder. Well, that's the thing. It's like, you need a Pathfinder for Starfinder. Like, where the fuck am I going? I'm lost. What the fuck? It to me, it looks like a colossal mess of also the stages of talking about combat. I think it was on the wiki how they described you got a stage with dealing with multiple times for rolling for initiative, rolling for dealing with your torpedoes and stuff like that. And I'm sorry, torpedoes are just one thing. This is space. In a space opera, you're not just going to have torpedoes being flung out. You're not just going to have solid projectiles. You're going to have lasers. You're going to have missile batteries. You're going to have everything that would be on a comparable battleship. And
also, it seems like this is not going to be happening in real time like it would be happening. Well, I understand, it's a tabletop game.
Turn-based, yeah.
I feel like, but I feel like to get the full effect, it needs to be quicker. With how you're doing it, you need to have a little more maneuverability, and you need to be able to have more imagination. Like
I was describing beforehand how I would do. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the short of the run of it was, if we had to go against another starship, and Rachel and I were just bouncing back, how would we do that? Well, it basically said, I would slide underneath. I would use I'd use a planet or an Earth or celestial body and hide behind it. Hit my engines hot. Run them hot. Twist so I give a broadside to her underbelly, and the last set of torpedo runs shoot pods to actually slam my troops inside the ship to not only let the energy of the rounds destabilize the ship, but get my men in there to actually disable the engines, disable engineering, disable communications, oxygen, all these things, and completely disrupt the functioning of it, not just through boom, boom, boom from distance, but actually engaging people to force people to slam into this actual vehicle. And if you really look at it, look at Star Trek, Star Wars. Most of these ships are colossal entities. I use Warhammer's Goliath mammoth ships as a reason, because if you slam in there, if you just deploy troops, you can cause utmost amount of havoc. And space operas require massive armies going back and forth, and it also would allow for macro and micro understanding of the battle, where you could actually set up this epic battle and focus on one little scene of your guys doing fighter runs and then slamming in and disrupting through actual physical engagement.
Yeah. There's a lot of different things you can do, because they did mention that you do also have access to cloaking. And I want to know what the limitations want. I want to know what the limitations are for that.
Stealth check. It's spaceship stealth check.
It's going to be, and there's going to be a lot of things that you can do using that little bit of a stealth check. But it is like you were talking about. You should have the ability to be able, if your pilot has good enough skills, maneuverability, and things like that, they should be able to do things that other pilots aren't able to do.
Well, here's the other thing when it comes down to it, space opera. One of the other things I would argue when they make that claim that this is a space opera is to understand the nature of helplessness. If you're actually flying and you're in a relatively large ship, you're at the mercy of other people's talents. Again, that's why when I described Rachel, how would I take it, that's the time to have a quick, intense moment and a quick, short one so everyone can get into the action of having a pilot struggle to slam his ship or his breaching tube into the other ship. That tension of you have to rely on your best pilot, your team pilot, to get you into that ship. That's a tense moment. I use Firefly as that reference. I'm a leaf on the wind. You literally have to go, okay, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, are we going to make it?
It should feel dangerous. And that's the situation. It should be a desperate moment. It just, so much of this, also I don't like, aside from the combat, I know we're moving away from that a little bit. I don't like how all of these modules are structured.
Oh.
It's mainly because I think about it this way, because I know about the millennial generation. I know we have the older gamers and stuff. I don't know if any of them listen to us, but I know that they do exist, and some of them, they stay in combat in campaigns for years, and that's okay too. But I think the millennial generation has less disposable income overall. And if what we know about Generation Z is true, they are going to be even more penny pinching than the millennials. And so what we see here is that the way that Starfinder is structured, it's meant to try and like wring every last cent out of you to take every last cent out of your pocket.
Yeah, and that's a big warning, and I agree with you. And it's one of those things that they said that they're doing a change from previous years of not blitzkrieging your wallet, but I looked
blitzkrieging your wallet.
Yeah, blitzkrieging your wallet. I very much looked at their previous records of how it was done. Essentially, you got almost, say, they essentially almost released 3 different campaigns a year, but they broke it down to these small little 90, 100-page modules and sold them about every month. This time, there seems to be a delay between each one of them, so you might just maybe get a complete campaign in a year, but it very much makes me worry because splitting it up like that and hacking it up, even though they've done it before and they're like, oh, we're not going to blitzkrieg your wallet, you're still asking for roughly $20 a pop. It's essentially gone up.
$23 a pop. And it's not even just the $23 a pop. It's also the way that they've structured it. From what I've seen described, that when you buy you're going to buy your core rule book and everything. But that's not going to give you all the information, because what's going to happen is all of these little incremental modules are also structured to give you more creatures and more information. So you're not going to get all of the major information that you're going to need in the core rulebook to get the full effect of Starfinder. To get everything that you need, you're going to have to buy bit by bit every little tiny module to get all of your money's worth out of the game.
Yeah, and for me, I looked at one of their first releases, Rise of the Ruin Lords. They sold it a collector's edition or anniversary edition of all of them, and that whole package was $60, and I don't see them actually selling you that whole complete package, because someone like me, I don't buy Curse of Strahd Chapter 1, 2, and 3. I bought Curse of Strahd because I want the fucking Curse of Strahd. It was one of my complaints about the first release of D&D. It was broken into the Dragon Queen and then Rise
Horde of the Dragon Queen.
Yeah, Horde of the Dragon Queen and Rise of Tiamat. They split them up into 2 different things. And I very much hated that, because it left everything off on a weird... They wrapped it up, but they didn't wrap it up in that bow of, my campaign's over. Oh, your campaign's over now. And I think they released them like right after the other or right away, but it's like that type of thing for me. I build a campaign, and when a campaign ends, I wrap it up, I finish it, I put a nice little bow on it, and then I do my little hint to the next thing's coming. With that kind of chopping it up and waiting so much time in between, I don't get to do that. I literally, when a person says, hey Mike, I want to play this module, I do my best to go through the entire module. I'll add my things throughout it, but I don't like to be, oh, here's a new part to the module, we got to continue it. And I know most people are not going to be able to rush through it 1, 2, 3 like that, but it's still like, I like to also be able to read the whole entire module, each chapter, to go through it a few times, so I'm like, hey, this part doesn't connect anywhere later on. I'm removing that and actually making it work, because Horde of the Dragon Queen did not work about the, in the second chapter when you had the Council of Waterdeep, it didn't work. You had no hint of it. It just magically got springed on you. Like how Rachel can attest, I started hinting at it from the beginning.
Yeah, you did. The situation ultimately is that this is going to be a huge investment. If you're going to go and invest in Starfinder, it's going to be a big investment, and they're going to nickel and dime you at every turn. And if you're going to go for the full effect, you're going to have to get your miniatures. You're going to have to go and get your board set up and everything like that. Ultimately, this is just going to be, like, if you want to get the best bang for your buck, to be honest, Dungeons and Dragons would be cheaper.
Yeah.
Or anything would be cheaper.
Well, here's the other
This,
thing. It kind of stops people from almost out of the box having a module to kind of grapple how the universe works and have their cyberpunk, have their proper sci-fi. You kind of have
their space opera. It's going to keep a lot of people from getting what the full effect of what they want out of a space opera. Like if you are a fan of sci-fi and you're a fan of space operas, I feel bad because I really want this to work. As a fan of that genre, I really want to be able to go and have that effect. I want to be able to do something that's like Cowboy Bebop flavored, for example, or this
is the girl who got super excited. She didn't understand Dark Heresy, and once she started playing it, she started understanding what I was starting to do. She's like, "Oh my god, it's in space, Mike. What planets are we gonna go to next?" Was literally the first words out of her mouth. I'm like, "You haven't even gotten past level 1. Wait a second." And it's like, that's how I work it. Like, I let this thing take a life of itself.
I still didn't get to burn any heretics. I need to do that.
But and here's the other thing, like something like Starfinder. For me, Rachel would be like, "Okay, Mike, here's the rules. Grab your Dark Warhammer shit and meld it together for me. You can do it." It's just how I work, but that's essentially what I do. I think my strength is I grab from so many different universes, so many different books, that when it comes down to this, it's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to use this rule set for some of the special stuff and just kind of meld it together. And that's...
You are really good about doing that. I think, and you manage to marry a lot of things together very, very well. So much so that you're not going to notice it in the middle of gameplay. But with this, I feel like a lot of this stuff is going to get bogged down because it really is very number crunchy. Pathfinder just
by its nature,
by itself is very, very number crunchy. And when you have a lot riding on a battle, because you are going to be out in space, it's not like if you lose a battle or something and you're in the middle of the forest or something and something goes wrong and you have to flee or whatever. There is no fleeing. You're in space. I can imagine so many friendships just getting destroyed from Starfinder itself, because everybody's going to have made their miniatures.
Well, here's the other issue.
Done all this stuff, and then it all takes is some bad rolls.
Well, one of the other things is that they talk about the conversion tables of Pathfinder to Starfinder, and they're very keeping close to their breast, the not wanting to talk about what's exactly in there, the high number crunch. And with all that simple, that role of seeing the Starfighter, it looks to be another rules-heavy thing where I'm going to be ripping it apart because it's not going to be DM and player-friendly for, okay, we need a quick decision. And again, I strip things out so people can play, that they're not forced to, Mike, go look through 3 splat books to figure out the answer. Again, this is why I don't like this module chopped up, because, well, there was a reference here in this earlier game. I gotta look back. It's like, these numbers, these claims that you can take your Pathfinder and put them in Starfinder and mix them and match and have the classes reach over. It's like, when you have that, that's so much of number management.
That's so much stuff.
Yeah, it's not that it's impossible. It's just like, I want to run a game.
It's a huge time investment. It's a huge money sink, and that just means more friendships that are going to get destroyed. I can just imagine it. The whole thing is you've got everything together, everything's fine, and then all it takes is just
I can't show up.
Either somebody doesn't show up, or somebody ends up screwing around when everybody's telling them like, fucking knock it off. And then they just have bad rolls that night, and everything's screwed. And can you just imagine that they're that one person, and they...
Oh, it looks like we lost.
All it takes is just that one...
Yeah, we're losing Rachel for a moment.
What?
Yeah,
You're losing me?
Yeah, we're losing you. But I agree with Rachel. It's like that one person fucking around would cause the ultimate problem, and that is essentially... You're looking at all these things, the feats that you have to do, and I fear that this Starfinder will be the 4th edition for Paizo, like what 4th edition was for D&D, how it pushed a lot of people away. I hope it's not. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I see the book and go, oh my god, you did it right, but...
Honestly, I think with them trying to like shake every last cent from your pockets, with this one like basically holding you upside down, being like, all right, is there a little bit left? Ah,
well,
there's a penny.
Well, here's the thing. They're stretching it out. They're stretching it out, too.
Yeah, you know what's going to happen, though. Mm-hmm. Like, because it's going to be so expensive, there's going to be so many people that are going to pirate this. They're just going to scan the heck out of all the books and put them into a neat little PDF format, and they're just going to pass it around. That's what happens when you try to do this crap.
Mm-hmm. Well,
it's unfortunate. I really, I would hope that people would always try to buy this stuff if they can. Because these companies, we really do need them around, because it is a very small community of people who do produce these things for tabletop. But when they get a little bit greedy, it's...
Here's the thing. I think it's essentially... I think what they think by not being exploitative and, as I said, blitzkrieging your wallet, is instead of... They're releasing not as many campaign modules, but at the same time, I'm looking at it like... If this follows the trajectory of Pathfinder, you're looking at each campaign has 6 individual modules at $20 a pop.
Well, not 23. So
sorry,
think
23.
about it. And they're releasing about 3 this year alone. So there's going to be one in August. There's going to be one in October, and then there's going to be another one in December. So what that means is we're looking at something like, what was it? That's 46. I'm trying to think.
You're looking about $70.
Yeah, we're looking at about $70, $80. Well, that's not even including the core rulebook or any miniatures that you might be buying. So that's think about that's the amount of money investment. Like if you have your own little gaming group and you try to put money into a hat for this stuff, that's still a lot.
Yeah, that's still... Well, here's the thing. The 3 modules they have, they don't strike me as space opera, which is what they have been kind of trying to sell this on, because the first one is Dead Suns. Essentially, a ship comes in with an asteroid in tow. They find out it's a super weapon. But they even describe beforehand, after battling warring factions on the station, the heroes are recruited to explore the ship and the asteroid. Well, here's the important thing. That warring faction, that should be the, a module in and of itself. Then the exploring of the asteroid should be another part. The next one is you're now dealing with cultists. The third one, you're dealing with undead. You're on a planet inhabited by undead. Well, all these things, they don't seem actually properly connected. And as a DM, I would be like, come on, this does not flow nicely. And I have a Pathfinder module set with me, not close enough by, but it's it doesn't have this gentle, nice flow. And again, I don't have the money to grab Rises of the Ruin Lords or any of our Jade Regent, because that's some fucking expensive shit for me. And I try to grab these modules so I can get a better understanding to, okay, this is the style of this universe. And almost universally, I have one philosophy. I usually try to grab the first module or two full set modules so I can understand how the universe works, so I can run a better game for my players. And good DMs usually try to do that. Now, the more experienced, you usually don't have to do that, but I do that because each system's different, and I like to understand it how they intend it to be played. That's a huge investment for me to even attempt that for my group of friends.
Yeah. And that's ultimately what's going to happen is people are going to get all piratey, and they're going to go pass all these things around. But the thing is that this is just one big disappointment, because I really was hoping that it would meet all of the hype that they were giving. They're like, guys, it's going to be like Star Trek, or it's going to be like Star Wars, or it's going to be like Cowboy Bebop, or it's going to be like, Firefly. that should have been our first red flag. Because the moment when you're trying to say it's like all of these things, instead of just selling me the world, sell me the experience.
Well, here's the funny thing out of all this Rachel's complaining audience is that I'm probably going to buy the first one to get my hands on it, to understand it, and see how to work with it. Because after that, I will honestly, I'll give you an honest first day review, quick little run through me playing around with it, taking a look at it, because to be honest, most of these reviewers I see, or people that give out advice, they're not really giving really straight up honest advice. Like the ones I suggest to check out if you really want really honest reviews: Nerdarchy, How to Be a Good DM, Drunkens and Dragons, and Tabletop Terrors. These are the ultimate 4 guys that I would say you should always look to on their opinions. They're well versed, well read. They don't lie to their audience. They don't try to give what the audience wants to hear. They'll give it straight up what they think. And these are the guys I would say you take a look at. Those guys. Those guys know their shit backwards and forwards. They've had years of experience, and they usually have a group of people, so they can actually have different opinions to take a look at it, different points of view. Again, take more on those guys.
Yes, always try to find people who aren't going to sugarcoat this stuff, because I think that's the big reason why a lot of folks end up in this community, in this this sort of a tabletop roleplay podcasting community, is ultimately, I think, or at least those that do what we do, we really want to make sure that you make good investments, that you guys have a good time, and that's always the biggest thing. After it gets to a certain point and stops being fun, it's just not worth it. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening. Tell us what you think down in the comments. If you want to hear more, whatnot, if you want to
please like and subscribe, for the love of God.
Yes, like and subscribe. Tell us what you think.
If you're out there.
Yeah, if you're out there. We very much enjoying talking. If we could ever get on someone else's talk and discuss podcasts. God damn it!
Yes, Mike.
God damn it! I was right. I was writing something with dealing with a nation. I was world building. That's why politics was, that word slipped out. No. Don't worry, not politics. No, but world building, character building. We like to talk about this. We're building our own stuff for people. It just takes me a while because I start making the joke. I'm a lazy bones, but no, I try to make sure it's perfect. But tell us what you think. Thank you guys, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll see you around.
And have a nice night.
Yeah, good night.